Have you ever paused and wondered what your purpose is now that you've crossed into your golden years? In a world that often celebrates youth and speed, it's easy to feel like time is slipping through your fingers. But what if I told you that these later years hold within them the power for deep joy, fulfillment, and peace? These years are not a time to slow down, but an opportunity to reflect, grow, and reconnect with your inner self. Here at Buddhist Mindfulness, we're here to explore how you can transform your golden years into a time of self-discovery and spiritual growth. It's a time to finally understand and embrace the true meaning of time, not as something to fear, but as a precious gift to cherish. In Buddhist teachings, time is often seen as an illusion, and as we grow older, we have the unique chance to let go of the attachment to past roles and expectations to simply be. Happiness, joy, and contentment are not found in external achievements or possessions, but in our ability to be present and grateful for each moment. In today's video, we'll explore how embracing mindfulness can allow you to find a new purpose, cultivate peace within, and let go of the burdens that have weighed on you in earlier chapters of your life. Number 1, the value of time in your later years. As we journey through life, one thing becomes increasingly clear: time is precious. In our youth, time feels like an endless river flowing swiftly, giving us the illusion that we have plenty of it. But as the years go by, the river begins to narrow. The days pass faster, and we start to realize that time is not infinite. It's easy to take time for granted when you're young, always chasing after something, always in pursuit of the next goal or achievement. But as we grow older, the true value of time becomes apparent. The Buddha's teachings often focus on impermanence, and nothing is more impermanent than time itself. All things, including our time here on earth, are fleeting. We may have once thought we had all the time in the world, but now we understand that our time is finite. Each moment is a gift, and as we age, that gift becomes more precious. We begin to cherish time, not because we fear its passing, but because we understand the depth of its value. For much of my earlier years, I was in a constant state of motion. Like many, I felt the pressure to achieve, to succeed, and to prove myself. The days blurred into one another as I rushed from one task to the next. Every accomplishment, every title, every milestone felt like it was just the beginning of the next challenge. The idea of living in the moment seemed like a distant concept, a luxury I couldn't afford. I remember those times when I would look back at a day, week, or even year, only to realize I had been so focused on getting ahead that I had neglected the things that truly mattered. Relationships were strained because I didn't have time to nurture them. I missed the simple joys of life, the quiet moments, the time spent with loved ones, the peace of just being. It wasn't until I reached a point in my life when the pressures of career and success had lost their luster that I began to recognize the cost of all the rushing. Achievements didn't bring the satisfaction I had hoped for. Success felt empty when I realized that it came at the expense of the things that made life truly rich: connection, love, and peace of mind. I remember a specific moment in my life when everything began to shift. I was sitting alone in my living room, looking out the window at the changing seasons. The trees were shedding their leaves, signaling the passage of time, and I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I had spent so many years trying to build something, striving for an ideal life that was always just out of reach. But now, as I looked at the world outside, I realized that I had already been living life. It was all happening around me, and I had missed so much of it. I made a conscious decision that day to slow down. I started to prioritize the things that truly mattered. I reconnected with friends and family, making time to nurture those relationships. I took long walks in nature, allowing myself to be present in the moment. I practiced mindfulness, focusing on the simple pleasures of life rather than the relentless pursuit of future goals. It wasn't about abandoning ambition, but about reorienting my focus. Success, I realized, was no longer about titles or accolades. It was about how I spent my time, who I spent it with, and the quality of those moments. Each day became an opportunity to connect more deeply with the world around me, to cultivate inner peace, and to find joy in the little things. Reflecting on the impermanence of life, especially as I grew older, helped me understand the true meaning of time. The Buddha's teachings remind us that everything is in a constant state of change. Nothing is permanent. Our bodies, our relationships, our accomplishments, and even our thoughts, everything is transient. This realization is not something to fear, but rather something to embrace. When we understand that time is limited, we naturally begin to prioritize what truly matters. The material achievements that once seemed so important lose their significance. What matters most is the quality of our relationships, the depth of our experiences, and the peace we find within ourselves. Our golden years are not the end of the road. They are the beginning of a new chapter. They are a time to reflect on our lives, to slow down, and to enjoy the richness of each moment. The wisdom we accumulate with age allows us to see the world in a new light, to appreciate the simple beauty of life, and to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for the time we have. As I look back on my life, I see so many moments that were lost in the rush. The times I missed connecting with friends because I was too focused on work. The quiet evenings spent alone when I could have been with loved ones enjoying the simple pleasures of life. The countless days I spent stressing over things that in hindsight didn't matter at all. But now I look forward with a sense of purpose and clarity. I understand that the past is gone and I cannot change it, but I can control how I spend my time from here on out. I can choose to focus on the things that truly matter. I can be present with my family and friends. I can nurture my inner peace and continue to grow spiritually. I can make each moment count, knowing that time is the one thing we hang with. In our later years, relationships take on a new level of importance. When we are young, we may be driven by the pursuit of success and material wealth. But as we grow older, we realize that these things, while important, are not what bring lasting happiness. What brings us joy, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose are the people we share our lives with. Family and friends become our anchors as we age. They remind us of who we are, where we come from, and the love that has sustained us throughout our lives. In my own life, I've found that the most meaningful moments are those spent with those I hold dear. Whether it's sharing a meal with family, laughing with friends, or simply sitting together in silence, these are the moments that give life its true richness. As we age, there is also a deeper focus on personal fulfillment and inner peace. The constant striving for external validation loses its appeal. We begin to recognize that true happiness comes from within. It is a sense of peace, a contentment with who we are and where we are in life. Practicing mindfulness has been a key part of my journey. It allows me to stay present and focused on the moment, rather than getting caught up in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. I've learned to embrace the flow of life, to accept that things are constantly changing, and to find peace in that. This inner peace is not something that can be rushed or forced. It comes with time and reflection. It's a process of letting go of attachments to things, people, and outcomes, and learning to simply be. As I've grown older, I've found that the more I cultivate inner peace, the more I appreciate the moments I have, no matter how small or fleeting. Your golden years are not the end of your journey, but the beginning of a new one. They are a time to reflect, to enjoy the fruits of your labor, and to savor the moments that truly matter. Time may be more limited, but that makes it all the more precious. Each day is a gift, and how we spend it is what truly counts. As I look to the future, I feel a sense of gratitude for the time I have. I know that my time here is finite, but I also know that I have the power to make each moment count. Whether it's through relationships, personal growth, or simply enjoying the beauty of life, I am committed to living fully in each moment. The value of time increases with age, but so does our ability to appreciate it. As we learn to let go of the past and stop rushing toward the future, we find that the present moment is all we truly need. And in that moment, we find the richness of life itself. Number two, happiness is often thought of as something we must wait for, something that arrives only when certain conditions are met or when we reach a particular point in our lives. The idea that happiness is a reward for achieving something, a promotion, financial freedom, a perfect relationship, or even retirement, is deeply ingrained in our society. It's easy to fall into this trap, believing that once we cross off all the boxes on our to-do list, happiness will automatically follow. But here's the thing. Happiness is not something that's going to arrive in the future. It is a present choice, a mindset we can cultivate right here, right now. How often do we tell ourselves, I'll be happy when? The list can seem endless. When I finally get that promotion, when I can afford that vacation, or when I meet the right person. While it's perfectly natural to have goals and aspirations, waiting for the perfect moment to feel happiness can leave us stuck in a constant state of longing. We spend so much time looking ahead, believing that happiness lies in the future, that we forget to appreciate the present moment. But the future is always just out of reach. When we get to the milestone we've been waiting for, there's always another goal to achieve, another perfect moment to chase after. This is not to say that goals are unimportant or that striving for better things in life is wrong. In fact, it's essential to have aspirations and dreams that give us purpose. However, placing the burden of our happiness solely on achieving these future goals creates a sense of dissatisfaction in the present. We spend more time in the state of waiting for happiness than actually experiencing it. The present moment becomes a waiting room for a life we think will be more fulfilling once we reach the next step. One of the central teachings of Buddhism is the emphasis on being mindful of the present moment. In the teachings of the Buddha, we are reminded time and time again that life is fleeting and impermanent. Clinging to the past or worrying about the future only causes suffering. The present moment, this very moment, is all we truly have. Buddhism encourages us to let go of attachments to outcomes and to cultivate a state of awareness and mindfulness in the here and now. Happiness, in the Buddhist view, is not something that is dependent on circumstances or achievements. It is a state of mind that arises when we are fully present, when we are attuned to the beauty and wonder of the world as it is, without clinging to any expectations. Mindfulness practice teaches us to observe our thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. When we do this, we begin to see that happiness is not something that can be acquired or achieved through external means. It is something that exists within us, in our ability to be fully aware and appreciative of each moment. In a world that often encourages us to chase after future rewards and accomplishments, the Buddhist perspective offers a powerful reminder. Happiness is already here, within us, waiting to be experienced. It is not a distant goal, but a present choice. In my own life, I've witnessed how the pursuit of happiness often leads people to overlook the simple joys that surround them. I've seen many people in their later years rediscover the small, everyday pleasures that once seemed insignificant, but are now cherished moments. These simple joys, like reading a good book, enjoying a quiet walk in nature, or sitting down with a warm cup of tea, bring a deep sense of contentment and peace. The beauty of these moments is that they are not tied to any specific outcome or achievement. They are not contingent on whether we have the perfect job, the perfect relationship, or the perfect house. These moments are simply about being present and fully engaging with the life that's unfolding right before us. I remember a conversation I had with a retired friend who spoke about how, in her earlier years, she was always striving for the next big thing: work promotions, social recognition, financial success. She said that while those things brought temporary satisfaction, they never brought lasting happiness. But now, in her retirement, she had rediscovered the joy of sitting outside in the garden, watching the birds, or reading a book by the window. She explained that these moments, which once seemed mundane, now filled her with a deep sense of fulfillment. Her experience is a powerful reminder that happiness isn't necessarily tied to grand achievements or future events. It's about cultivating a mindset that allows us to appreciate the simple, everyday moments that make life so beautiful. So, how do we begin to cultivate happiness in our own lives, regardless of where we are on our journey? The key is to recognize that happiness is not something to be pursued in the future. It is something we can choose in the present moment. Each day offers countless opportunities to embrace happiness, even in the smallest of ways. It might be taking a few minutes in the morning to breathe deeply and set a positive intention for the day, or it might be pausing during the day to appreciate a moment of stillness. It could be calling a friend for a quick chat or taking a walk outside, feeling the sunshine on your face and the earth beneath your feet. Happiness can be found in the most ordinary things if we are open to seeing them. Being present means noticing what is right in front of us, without distraction. It's about appreciating the warmth of the sun on our skin, the beauty of a flower in bloom, the sound of laughter shared with a loved one. These are the moments that make life rich and meaningful, and they don't require us to wait for a specific event or achievement to occur. In fact, when we cultivate mindfulness and presence, we begin to realize that the more we focus on the present moment, the more happiness flows naturally. It's a paradox. The less we chase after happiness, the more it finds us. If you're unsure how to begin cultivating this sense of presence and happiness in your life, try this simple practice. 1. Pause and breathe. Each day, take a moment to pause and focus on your breath. Breathe in deeply, hold for a moment, and exhale slowly. This simple act of breathing brings you into the present moment, helping you release any worries or distractions. 2. Gratitude practice. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on the things you are grateful for. This could be something as simple as a good meal, a conversation with a friend, or a moment of peace in your day. Gratitude helps shift our focus from what we don't have to what we do have, which naturally brings more happiness. 3. Mindful appreciation. Choose one activity each day to do mindfully. Whether it's eating, walking, or listening to music, engage fully with the experience, paying attention to all the details. Notice how it feels, what you see, and what you hear. This helps you become more aware of the present moment and enhances your sense of fulfillment. 4. Self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that it's okay not to have everything figured out and that you are doing your best. Happiness comes more easily when we treat ourselves with compassion and acceptance, rather than constantly pushing ourselves to meet external expectations. In the end, happiness is not a future event. It is a daily choice, a mindset we cultivate in the present moment. By practicing mindfulness and embracing the simple joys of life, we can experience happiness today, rather than waiting for some distant future to bring it to us. As we cultivate presence and gratitude, we begin to realize that happiness was never about achieving external milestones. It was about embracing the life we have right now. So ask yourself today, what simple thing can I do right now to bring happiness into my life? Whether it's pausing to breathe, appreciating a moment, or choosing to let go of a worry, the choice is yours. Happiness is not a destination, it's a way of being in the world, and it's always available right here in the present moment. Number 3, letting go of past attachments. As we journey through life, we often form attachments to things, ideas, and roles that define our sense of purpose. In youth, many of us are taught that success is measured by achievement, by how much we can accomplish, how productive we are, and how well we fulfill our roles. Whether it's in the form of a high-powered career, the identity of a parent, or the accomplishments that come with those roles, we begin to intertwine our self-worth with what we do. Yet, as we grow older, particularly in retirement, we face a crossroads. The roles we once clung to may no longer serve us, and the structures we depended on may no longer hold the same value. Many people in their golden years struggle with this shift. When the structured rhythm of work or raising children fades, we might feel a sense of emptiness. The societal pressure to be constantly productive dissolves, but that doesn't always bring peace. Instead, it can leave us with the nagging feeling of being lost. For many, this time of transition can be disorienting, an empty space where once there was purpose. The teachings of Buddhism offer profound insights during these times of life transitions. According to the Buddha, attachment is the root cause of suffering. We cling to ideas, beliefs, and identities that no longer serve us, and this attachment traps us in cycles of dissatisfaction. The more we hold on to these attachments, the more we suffer when change inevitably comes. The Buddha encouraged us to look inward, recognize these attachments, and learn to release them with compassion for ourselves. When we speak of letting go of attachments, we're not advocating for abandoning everything that brings us joy or meaning. Rather, it's about disentangling our identity from external circumstances, achievements, or possessions. It's about realizing that our intrinsic value is not defined by what we do, how others see us, or how much we achieve. True freedom comes when we can detach from these superficial identities and live from a deeper, more authentic place. In my own life, I have found this process of letting go to be incredibly transformative. For many years, I was attached to the idea of being a doer. I tied my sense of value to my ability to achieve, to work tirelessly, produce results, and constantly move forward. Like many others, I believed that success was synonymous with constant productivity. It felt as if my worth was measured by how much I could accomplish each day, how much I could give to others, and how much I could prove myself. I took pride in being busy and in always being on the go. But as time passed, I began to experience a shift. The pressures of a busy life became overwhelming, and I started to question whether my relentless pursuit of accomplishment was truly fulfilling. It wasn't until I started practicing mindfulness that I began to understand that my worth was never tied to my productivity. Through mindfulness, I started to notice my thoughts and attachments. I began to recognize that the identity I had built around being a doer was limiting and, at times, self-destructive. Letting go of this attachment was not easy. It required a willingness to face uncomfortable feelings of emptiness and uncertainty. There were days when I felt lost without the structure and purpose that my previous attachments had given me. But through reflection and practice, I came to realize that the real value in life comes from simply being present, being authentic, and allowing myself to rest in the natural ebb and flow of life without constantly striving. In this stillness, I found a deeper connection to myself and the world around me. True freedom comes when we allow ourselves to live without the burden of expectation, without the need to constantly prove our worth. The wisdom of Buddhism, particularly the teachings on attachment, helped me realize that I had spent much of my life chasing external validation. I had attached my sense of self to a fleeting image of success. But when I let go of this attachment, I found that I was free to simply be. This shift didn't mean I gave up on living a meaningful life. Rather, it opened the door to a deeper and more fulfilling way of living, one that wasn't dependent on accomplishments or roles. I have a dear friend who experienced a similar transformation during their retirement. This friend had spent decades of their life building a career, excelling in their field, and earning recognition for their hard work. But after retiring, they felt a deep sense of aimlessness. The job that had once been the cornerstone of their identity was no longer a part of their life, and they struggled to find new meaning in the absence of that structure. The first few months of retirement were filled with a quiet sense of loss. It was as though the person they had been for so long had disappeared, leaving behind an unfamiliar version of themselves. But over time, my friend began to explore new avenues for meaning. They began volunteering at a local animal shelter. Initially, they thought it was just something to fill the time, a way to stay busy and active. But what they found was something far more profound. The shelter became a place where they could use their time and skills in service of others, but more importantly, it became a space where they could reconnect with their own humanity. It wasn't about earning a paycheck or fulfilling a career goal. It was about making a difference, about offering love and care to those in need. This experience was transformative for my friend. They discovered that their value wasn't tied to a title or a job, and it was about how they could show up in the world, how they could contribute to the lives of others, and how they could live in a way that was aligned with their true self. Volunteering brought them a renewed sense of purpose, not because they were being productive in the conventional sense, but because they were engaging in something meaningful, something rooted in compassion and connection. Through this process, my friend let go of their attachment to their past identity. They stopped measuring their worth by what they had achieved in their career and instead embraced the idea that their value was inherent, independent of external accomplishments. This shift was liberating. They were able to embrace the quiet moments of life, finding fulfillment in the simple acts of service and connection. This story illustrates the powerful impact that letting go of past attachments can have. When we release the need to be defined by our achievements or roles, we create space for new possibilities. We allow ourselves to be open to different experiences, and we begin to see that fulfillment doesn't come from external validation. It comes from living authentically and embracing what truly matters. Letting go of past attachments is not about abandoning everything that has been meaningful in our lives. It's about releasing the need for our self-worth to be tied to external factors. In doing so, we free ourselves to live more fully and authentically. This is especially important in later stages of life, when we are often faced with significant transitions. Whether it's retirement, an empty nest, or the loss of a loved one, these moments can feel like a confrontation with our own impermanence. But rather than being a source of suffering, these changes can offer an opportunity for growth and renewal. The practice of mindfulness plays a crucial role in this process. Through mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts, feelings, and attachments without judgment. We can begin to untangle the knots that bind us to past identities and let go of the stories we've told ourselves about who we are supposed to be. This practice allows us to live with greater ease, accepting ourselves and others as we are, without the need for constant striving or external validation. As we age, it's natural to experience shifts in our roles and identities, but by embracing the teachings of Buddhism and practicing detachment from outdated attachments, we can navigate these transitions with grace. We can discover a deeper sense of meaning that comes from within, not from what we do, but from who we are. The true freedom we seek is found not in the external world, but in the quiet spaces within ourselves, where we are free to simply be, to love, and to live authentically. Letting go of past attachments is not a rejection of the past, but a reclaiming of the present. It is a path to self-liberation and peace, a way to embrace life as it unfolds and to find joy in the simple beauty of being alive. Number 4, the myth of work-life balance for seniors. As we journey through life, we often hear the phrase work-life balance tossed around, especially in the context of modern work culture. It's a term that has become synonymous with the idea of achieving equilibrium between professional obligations and personal well-being. However, the reality of this balance often feels elusive, especially in our younger years when we're caught up in the whirlwind of career building, family responsibilities, and societal expectations. Yet, when we enter our senior years, we find ourselves facing a different challenge, not balancing work with life, but balancing life with inner peace. In our earlier years, many of us view work-life balance through a lens of external success. We measure our worth by our job titles, the number of hours we clock in, and the achievements we accumulate. These pressures often shape our understanding of what a fulfilling life looks like. But as we grow older, particularly as we retire from active employment or reduce our workload, the expectations of work-life balance shift. The question then becomes, how do we find a sense of balance when the work is no longer the main focus? In the past, retirement was seen as a time to rest, a time for relaxation and leisure after years of hard work. But today, many seniors continue to work well past the age of retirement. The notion of a clear retirement stage has evolved, with more people working part-time or pursuing entrepreneurial endeavors. However, this ongoing work can still create a tension with the idea of enjoying one's later years. The myth of work-life balance in the senior years lies in the pressure to maintain the same pace and productivity as in our youth. The reality, however, is that in our golden years, we need to shift our focus away from the external validation of work achievements and instead prioritize nurturing our inner peace and fulfillment. This transition can be jarring for many seniors who have spent their lives working toward external goals. It can feel as though our sense of self-worth is tied to what we do rather than who we are or how we feel. But the key to balance in our later years lies in the understanding that peace, fulfillment, and purpose do not have to come from relentless productivity. In fact, by letting go of the obsession with balancing work and life in the conventional sense, we make room for a more meaningful, soul-nourishing life. The Buddhist philosophy offers a profound perspective on balance that is especially relevant as we age. Central to Buddhist teachings is the idea of the middle way, a path that avoids extremes and encourages moderation in all aspects of life. The middle way is not about depriving oneself or going to the extreme in either direction. It's about finding the harmonious balance between indulgence and asceticism, between ambition and contentment. As we age, this teaching is crucial. The middle way encourages us not to feel pressured to do everything or achieve external success, but to find a way of life that nurtures both our spiritual and physical well-being. It suggests that in our senior years, rather than rushing to complete endless tasks or chasing external recognition, we should focus on what genuinely nourishes our soul. It's not about working harder to maintain balance, but about releasing the need to work so hard at all. For many seniors, this might mean learning to slow down, savor moments of quiet, and connect with the deeper, more meaningful aspects of life. The middle way encourages balance, not in the sense of an equal allocation between work and leisure, but in the sense of listening to what our bodies and hearts truly need, without being overly influenced by external demands or judgments. I once met a woman in her 70s who had recently retired from a long career in teaching. Like many retirees, she initially felt uncertain about how to fill her time. At first, she tried keeping busy by volunteering, taking on small tasks, and keeping a somewhat active social calendar. But she soon found herself feeling drained, unable to shake the feeling that she wasn't living fully. One day, while sorting through some old art supplies, she picked up a paintbrush and started experimenting with watercolors. At first, she worried that it was a waste of time. She had spent so many years equating productivity with success, and painting felt too leisurely for someone who had always been so driven. But as she spent more time painting, she began to notice something profound happening within her. The more she painted, the more she realized how deeply fulfilled she felt. The act of creation, of expressing herself on canvas, brought her joy in a way that no professional achievement had ever done. Over time, she immersed herself in painting, learning new techniques, and even sharing her work with others. In her quiet moments of creativity, she discovered peace, a peace that came from doing something purely for the sake of joy, not for recognition or accomplishment. It wasn't just about creating art, it was about rediscovering herself, nurturing her spirit, and reconnecting with a simpler, more authentic way of being. This woman's story is an example of the Buddhist middle way in action. She had spent much of her life working, meeting external expectations, and striving for success. But in her later years, she embraced a new way of living, one that allowed her to let go of the need for external validation and instead focused on what brought her inner peace. Through painting, she found fulfillment not in achieving more, but in slowing down and honoring her inner needs. As seniors, we don't need to completely abandon the idea of purpose. It's still important to engage with life in meaningful ways, whether through hobbies, volunteering, or spending time with loved ones. Purpose brings vitality and direction, even in our later years. But the difference is in how we approach purpose. Instead of tying our sense of worth to accomplishments or expectations, we can embrace purpose in a way that is rooted in joy, self-expression, and peace. The challenge for many seniors is learning to detach from the pressure to prove their worth through work or productivity. Buddhist teachings remind us that attachment is the root of suffering. This applies to our attachment to outcomes, to labels, and even to the idea of work-life balance. When we let go of the need to constantly prove ourselves or meet external expectations, we create the space to discover what truly nourishes our souls. In our senior years, balance doesn't mean running around trying to achieve everything as we might have done in our younger years. It means knowing when to rest, when to engage in activities that bring us joy, and when to be still. It's about accepting that peace and fulfillment come not from doing more, but from being more, being present in each moment, appreciating the simple pleasures of life, and nurturing our inner peace. Incorporating the Buddhist middle way into our lives as seniors means finding harmony between work, leisure, and personal growth. It's about embracing life with an open heart, letting go of the need to chase external validation, and allowing ourselves to experience the richness of the present moment. Whether you're still working or enjoying retirement, the path to true balance lies in cultivating inner peace, pursuing passions that bring joy, and letting go of the need to prove yourself. By following this path, we experience a deeper, more fulfilling balance that doesn't rely on the myths of productivity or achievement, but on the quiet joy of being in tune with ourselves. Number 5, letting go of the need for permission. For much of our lives, we've been conditioned to seek validation from others. We learn early on that our worth is often measured by how well we meet the expectations of those around us: family, friends, society. From childhood to adulthood, we are subtly or overtly told that our happiness and well-being should be dependent on external approval. Do this for your family. Sacrifice for the greater good. Follow the rules, and you will be rewarded. These messages shape our lives and often cause us to neglect our own needs and desires. After decades of living for others, whether by working tirelessly to support a family, fulfilling societal norms, or simply seeking the approval of those we love, it can feel disorienting and even selfish to suddenly focus on yourself. The idea of prioritizing your own happiness may seem foreign or indulgent, as though it's something that should be postponed until every external obligation has been met. But as we reach a certain point in life, there comes a profound realization. You have earned the right to prioritize your own joy. You no longer need permission to do what brings you peace, fulfillment, and happiness. You are allowed to exist for yourself, not merely as a reflection of the expectations placed upon you. This shift isn't about abandoning the responsibilities you have to others, but about recognizing that you too deserve care and compassion. When you release the need for external validation, you begin to tap into a deeper, more authentic sense of self. It's as though you've been given a passport to your own happiness, and you no longer have to wait for someone else's approval to use it. In Buddhism, the concept of self-love is often misunderstood. Many people assume that spiritual practice, especially Buddhist teachings, calls for self-denial or renunciation of personal desires. However, Buddhism teaches a much more nuanced view. Self-care and self-love are not only permissible, but essential for our spiritual and emotional well-being. The Buddha emphasized the importance of right mindfulness and right intention, both of which invite us to examine our inner lives with compassion and awareness. True mindfulness is not just about watching the world go by. It is about noticing how we treat ourselves in moments of stress, joy, pain, and love. It is about recognizing when we are giving too much of ourselves to others and when we are neglecting our own needs. By practicing self-compassion, we are able to find balance and create space for both our own well-being and the well-being of those around us. The Buddha also taught that we should love others as we love ourselves. But this isn't a mere rhetorical flourish. It's an acknowledgement of how intertwined our ability to care for others is with how we care for ourselves. If you don't nourish your own heart, mind, and body, it becomes nearly impossible to offer true, sustainable love to others. Self-care is the foundation upon which we build our capacity to be present for the people we love without burning out or feeling resentful. Buddhism encourages the practice of metta, loving kindness, which begins with oneself. It's the realization that we deserve to feel joy, peace, and contentment just as much as anyone else. By nurturing ourselves, we open the door to a deeper well of energy and love that we can share with others. But the key is to do so without guilt, knowing that self-care is a necessary part of life, not an indulgence, but a sacred practice of honoring who we are and what we need to thrive. A close friend of mine is someone who has spent much of her life taking care of others, whether it was helping her parents, looking after her children, or supporting her partner through various challenges. For years, she put her own dreams on hold, thinking that her worth came from how much she could give to others. She found deep fulfillment in being the caretaker, in fulfilling the roles expected of her. But over time, she began to feel drained, disconnected, and resentful. She had lost sight of her own joy and purpose in the process of meeting the needs of everyone else. Then, one day, she did something unexpected. She booked a trip to a remote, tranquil location, somewhere she had always wanted to visit but had never found the time to go. This was a huge step for her. She had never traveled alone before. It felt strange and a little selfish, but it was also deeply liberating. For the first time in many years, she was putting herself first. When she returned, she was a different person. It wasn't just the fresh air or the beautiful scenery that had rejuvenated her. It was the act of prioritizing her own well-being, of stepping away from the demands of others to simply be with herself. She came back with a renewed sense of peace, a stronger connection to her own desires, and a clarity about what truly made her happy. That trip wasn't just about sightseeing. It was about self-discovery, self-care, and reclaiming the right to live for herself. Her experience reminded me of something the Buddha said: "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Often we wait for permission from others to take care of ourselves, But the truth is that we are the ones who must grant ourselves that permission. This is the key to authentic happiness. Releasing the need for permission to prioritize yourself is an act of deep spiritual courage. It means giving yourself permission to grow, to evolve, and to seek fulfillment in whatever form it takes. For many of us, this requires unlearning the habits and beliefs that have kept us small, that have convinced us that our needs don't matter as much as others. But the truth is, we cannot truly serve others if we are not well ourselves. Just like an airplane's oxygen mask, we must put our own mask on first before we can help those around us. In the journey towards self-love and self-care, it's essential to remember that letting go of the need for permission doesn't mean becoming selfish or detached from others. It means recognizing that your happiness and well-being are integral to your ability to offer love and support to the people you care about. The more you nourish your own spirit, the more you can give of yourself freely and joyfully to others. Practical steps toward letting go. 1. Acknowledge your needs. The first step in letting go of the need for permission is to honestly acknowledge your own needs. What do you want in life? What brings you joy? What do you need to feel at peace? Start by asking yourself these questions without judgment or fear of what others may think. 2. Set boundaries. Learn to set healthy boundaries with others. This is essential for protecting your energy and ensuring that you are not constantly giving without receiving. Boundaries are not walls, they are markers of self-respect. By saying no to what drains you, you are saying yes to what nourishes you. 3. Practice self-compassion. It's easy to fall into the trap of guilt when we focus on ourselves, but self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a loved one. Remember, it's okay to prioritize yourself. 4. Celebrate your wins. Take time to celebrate the moments when you honor your own needs. Whether it's taking a day off, going on a solo trip, or simply taking a few minutes to meditate, acknowledge the importance of those acts. 5. Release guilt. Let go of the belief that caring for yourself is selfish. Self-love is an essential part of living a balanced life. If you find yourself feeling guilty, remind yourself that by taking care of yourself, you are better equipped to care for others. In conclusion, the process of letting go of the need for permission is a profound journey towards self-empowerment and spiritual growth. It's about reclaiming your right to live authentically, to prioritize your own happiness, and to give yourself permission to live for yourself, without guilt, without hesitation. By doing so, you not only enrich your own life, but also become a more vibrant, loving presence in the lives of others. Number 6, embracing change. It's never too late. A common misconception in later years is that it's too late to make changes or pursue new dreams. People often assume that once they've reached a certain age, their opportunities for transformation are limited and that they should simply settle into a comfortable routine. However, this belief couldn't be farther from the truth. The reality is that the possibilities for growth are endless, no matter your age. The Buddha, in his teachings, emphasized the idea that transformation is always possible, but it requires us to be open and receptive to change. The process of embracing change isn't just about new experiences or ambitions. It's about internal growth and understanding that we are not defined by the limitations of age, but by our willingness to evolve. The perception that age brings with it an expiration date for dreams and change is deeply ingrained in many cultures. In some societies, older generations are revered for their wisdom and experience, but are often expected to take a step back from the hustle and bustle of the world. As a result, many individuals find themselves feeling as though they have missed their window of opportunity. They feel that the things they could have done or the paths they could have taken belong to a younger version of themselves. This, however, is not the case. Age should not be viewed as a hindrance to personal growth or an indicator of how much potential is left. Instead, we should reframe our perception of aging and recognize that it is a continual process of growth, discovery, and reinvention. One of the most powerful lessons the Buddha imparted was that suffering arises from attachment to fixed ideas, whether about ourselves or the world around us. When we attach ourselves to the belief that we are too old to change, we limit our ability to experience the joy and fulfillment that comes with embracing new possibilities. To overcome this attachment, we must cultivate a sense of openness and detachment, recognizing that change is not something to fear, but something to welcome. It is the nature of life itself. While many people may feel like their time has passed, countless stories of individuals in their 60s, 70s, and beyond prove that it's never too late to reinvent oneself. There are countless examples of people who defy age-related stereotypes and embark on exciting new journeys. These stories are a testament to the fact that our capacity for growth and change is not limited by age, but by our willingness to step outside our comfort zones and take risks. Take, for example, the story of a woman in her 70s who decided to start a knitting business. Despite having little prior experience in the field, she began creating beautiful hand-knitted scarves and hats. With time, her small hobby blossomed into a thriving business. She found joy and fulfillment in her creative expression, and her success was a result of her open-mindedness and her refusal to accept that her dreams had an expiration date. She embraced change, and in doing so, she created a new chapter in her life that was both rewarding and meaningful. Another inspiring story is that of a man in his 60s who, after years of working in a corporate job, decided to pursue a completely different path, becoming a yoga instructor. Though many people would have considered him too old to take on such a physically demanding profession, he was determined to follow his passion for yoga. After completing his training, he began teaching at local studios, helping others discover the physical and spiritual benefits of yoga. His journey serves as a powerful reminder that age is not a barrier to learning new skills and exploring new opportunities. These stories are just two examples of how individuals can reinvent themselves at any stage of life. Whether it's starting a business, learning a new language, taking up a sport, or traveling the world, there is always room for new dreams to be realized. In each of these cases, age didn't define the person's potential. They did. By embracing change and following their passions, they were able to transform their lives in ways they never thought possible. The Buddha's teachings emphasize the impermanent nature of all things. In Buddhism, the concept of impermanence, or anicca, suggests that nothing stays the same forever, not even our own identities. This applies to every aspect of our lives, including our dreams, our abilities, and even our age. While the body may change over time, the potential for growth and self-transformation remains infinite, as long as we stay open to new experiences. One of the core principles of Buddhist philosophy is mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness involves being fully present in the moment, without judgment or attachment to preconceived notions. This practice is particularly valuable when it comes to embracing change, because it allows us to see ourselves and the world around us more clearly. When we are mindful, we are able to let go of outdated beliefs or limiting self-concepts, making space for new ideas and possibilities. Mindfulness encourages us to recognize that we are not bound by past experiences or fixed ideas of who we are or who we should be. By cultivating an open and receptive mindset, we are able to tap into our true potential and embrace the process of continuous growth. The act of embracing change from a Buddhist perspective is about letting go of attachment to the familiar and allowing life to unfold naturally, without resistance. Whether we are 20 or 70, this process of growth and transformation is always within our reach. There's a particular beauty in reinvention later in life. When we reach a certain age, we often have a clearer sense of who we are and what we truly want from life. Unlike younger years, when we might have been driven by external pressures or societal expectations, later years often provide a sense of freedom and wisdom. This freedom allows us to be more authentic in our pursuits and to make changes that align with our true desires. Reinvention at any age isn't just about taking on new careers or hobbies. It's about shedding old identities and exploring who we truly are beyond the roles we've been assigned. It's about creating a life that resonates with our deeper values, passions, and aspirations. Whether it's a new creative endeavor, a spiritual practice, or an adventurous undertaking, reinvention can bring a sense of fulfillment that goes beyond material success. It's about living in alignment with our authentic selves. In fact, many people find that later in life, they are able to let go of the fear or self-doubt that may have held them back in their earlier years. The pressures of societal expectations may begin to fade, allowing for greater freedom of expression and exploration. As we grow older, we often come to realize that life is too short to live in fear of failure or regret. The pursuit of new dreams, no matter how unconventional or unexpected, becomes an act of self liberation. The idea that it is ever too late to change or pursue new dreams is a misconception that limits our potential. The Buddha's teachings remind us that transformation is always possible and that it's never too late to start anew. Age is not a barrier to reinvention. It's simply a part of the process of life's constant unfolding. We can draw inspiration from the countless individuals who, later in life, took bold steps to reinvent themselves. These stories remind us that the potential for growth, adventure, and fulfillment remains open to us, no matter our age. By embracing change and releasing attachment to outdated self-concepts, we allow ourselves the freedom to discover new dreams, new talents, and new joys. Whether you're 60, 70, or beyond, the journey of transformation is just beginning. And as the Buddha taught, the possibilities for growth are truly limitless if we are willing to remain open and receptive to the flow of life. Number 7, the power of gratitude and forgiveness. As we grow older, it's natural for us to reflect on the years gone by, often focusing on the things we've lost, our youth, time, and perhaps missed opportunities. These feelings can bring a sense of heaviness and regret. But through all this, the practice of gratitude emerges as an incredibly powerful tool to help shift our perspective and find lasting peace. It's not about denying the hardships or losses, but rather about cultivating an awareness of the goodness that still exists in our lives, no matter how small or overlooked it may seem. Gratitude holds a special place in Buddhist teachings. In fact, it's seen not only as an important practice, but also as an essential component of cultivating inner peace and spiritual growth. Buddhism teaches that everything in life is interconnected, and through the lens of gratitude, we begin to see the beauty in even the smallest aspects of existence. We begin to appreciate the simple gifts of life, the breath we take, the warmth of the sun, the kindness of others, and even the challenges that help us grow. In Buddhism, there's a concept known as mudita, which refers to the practice of sympathetic joy, or taking delight in others' happiness. Gratitude is a gateway to this. When we feel grateful, we're not just acknowledging what we have, but also expanding our hearts to feel joy for the blessings others experience. This creates a profound sense of interconnectedness and harmony. A core Buddhist practice is to reflect on the interconnectedness of all beings and the many causes and conditions that have allowed us to be where we are. In moments of difficulty or frustration, taking a step back and thinking about the people, events, and even the elements of nature that have played a role in our lives can be deeply grounding. This practice of mindful gratitude can offer a shift from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance, helping us recognize that we always have something to be thankful for. I once had the privilege of working closely with an elderly couple who had spent much of their lives independent and strong. They had both enjoyed active careers and had raised a beautiful family. But as they grew older, they found themselves facing the painful reality of aging, loss of mobility, reliance on others for care, and an increasing sense of helplessness. They struggled not only with the physical changes, but also with the emotional burden of feeling like they had lost so much. Their once active lives seemed distant, and in their hearts, they carried the weight of missed opportunities. The time they felt had slipped away. However, I encouraged them to try a simple practice, to focus on gratitude. At first, it wasn't easy. They had grown so accustomed to focusing on what they no longer had, autonomy, health, and energy, that they found it difficult to see what remained. We started small. Each morning, they would share one thing they were grateful for. At first, it was simple things like the warmth of the sun shining through their window or the sound of birds outside. Gradually, their gratitude began to deepen. They started to appreciate the love and support they received from their children and grandchildren. They found joy in the little things, a shared meal, a tender hug, the beauty of a morning walk, no matter how short. Slowly, over time, their mindset shifted. They began to see their lives not through the lens of what had been lost, but through the lens of what they still had: love, connection, peace, and a lifetime of memories. The practice of gratitude became a spiritual balm for their hearts, helping them heal from the wounds of the past and accept the present moment with a sense of peace. In addition to gratitude, forgiveness is another potent tool that can transform our hearts and minds, allowing us to find lasting peace. Life inevitably brings moments of hurt, whether it's betrayal, disappointment, or unmet expectations. These wounds, if not addressed, can fester and lead to bitterness, resentment, and a heavy heart. Forgiveness, however, is not about forgetting or condoning the wrongs done to us. It is about freeing ourselves from the emotional grip that the past holds over us. Holding on to grudges, anger, and regret only weighs us down, like carrying a heavy stone in our hearts. But when we forgive, we release that stone, giving ourselves the freedom to move forward. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is not a one-time event, but a continual practice. It's a way of returning to the present moment and choosing to let go of negative attachments. It's about making the decision, even if it feels difficult, to stop letting the past dictate our emotional state in the present. Through forgiveness, we create space for compassion, not only for others, but also for ourselves. One of the most powerful aspects of forgiveness is the ability to forgive oneself. Often, we hold on to guilt or regret over things we've done or failed to do in the past. This self-judgment can be paralyzing, preventing us from living fully in the present. But when we forgive ourselves, we open up to the possibility of healing, self-compassion, and growth. There's another personal story that I often reflect on, one that involves a friend who carried deep-seated resentment for years. She had been hurt by a family member, and the pain of betrayal seemed insurmountable. For years, she held on to this anger, thinking that by doing so, she was protecting herself. The more she carried it, the more it consumed her. Her life became focused on the injustice done to her, and this bitterness tainted many of her relationships. One day, she confided in me about how she had been unable to forgive, even though she knew it was affecting her health and peace of mind. She had read about the importance of forgiveness, but didn't know how to start. I suggested that she begin by acknowledging her feelings, not suppressing the anger or pain, but giving herself permission to feel it. Then I encouraged her to reflect on how holding on to that pain was keeping her stuck, unable to move forward. Over time, my friend began to release her grip on the past. She took small steps, first in her heart, then in her actions, gradually forgiving the person who had hurt her. But perhaps most importantly, she forgave herself for holding on to the resentment for so long. She realized that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but a powerful choice to reclaim her peace and happiness. It was not an easy journey, and there were moments of doubt, but as she forgave, she experienced a deep sense of relief. It was as if a weight had been lifted off her heart, and she was free to live her life with greater joy and openness. Forgiveness, particularly forgiving ourselves, is often the most difficult yet the most liberating. As we age, we tend to accumulate regrets. We wish we had made different choices or acted differently. These thoughts can become a source of deep inner turmoil, especially if we dwell on them too long. Yet, forgiveness allows us to step into the present moment without the burden of past mistakes. Forgiving oneself doesn't mean we erase the past or excuse our actions. It means recognizing our imperfections as part of being human and allowing ourselves the grace to move forward. We all make mistakes, but we also have the ability to learn and grow from them. Buddhist teachings encourage us to approach ourselves with the same compassion and understanding that we would extend to a dear friend. Self-forgiveness is an act of loving kindness towards oneself. It is a reminder that we are not defined by our past mistakes, but by our ability to rise above them, to learn, and to grow into wiser, more compassionate beings. Both gratitude and forgiveness are transformative practices that have the power to heal wounds and transform lives. They offer us a path toward inner peace, allowing us to shift our focus from what we've lost to what we still have. They free us from the chains of the past and open our hearts to new possibilities. As we continue our journey through life, let us embrace these practices with open hearts. By practicing gratitude, we awaken to the beauty of each moment, and by practicing forgiveness, we liberate ourselves from the burdens of the past. In doing so, we can experience a deep sense of peace and joy, no matter where we are on our journey. The practice of gratitude and forgiveness is a reminder that peace is not something we find in the external world, but something we create within ourselves. Through these practices, we can walk through life with greater ease, more love, and a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings. In your golden years, remember that your time is yours to cherish. It's never too late to live fully, to embrace new experiences, to create joy, and to live with purpose. The teachings of Buddhism remind us that each moment is an opportunity to transform and to live mindfully. Life is not measured by the number of years we accumulate, but by the depth of our presence and the love we share. Even the simplest acts, watching a sunrise, sharing a smile, or feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, can hold profound meaning when approached with mindfulness. Aging is not a decline, but a sacred journey, rich with wisdom, reflection, and growth. These years can be a time of deep fulfillment if we choose to live mindfully, embrace gratitude, and let go of what no longer serves us. Just as the Buddha taught us to live in the present moment, so too should we embrace the richness of each day in our later years. By releasing regrets of the past and worries about the future, we open our hearts to the beauty of now. Cultivate compassion, both for yourself and others, and find peace in the simple rhythms of daily life. In doing so, we discover that the true essence of a life well lived is not in what we achieve, but in how deeply we connect with ourselves, with others, and with the present moment.